Welcome to the VetPractice Playbook, brought to you by VetPractice Pro, where we talk all things veterinary leadership, management, and clinic ownership. I'm Dr. Emily King, joined by John and Caleb Biddles, and my wonderful hubby, Richie King. And today we're going to help you build a practice that runs smoother, grows stronger, and leads with purpose. All right, so this is our first episode, so let's just take a minute to kind of go around the room. Let's just say why we belong here, besides the fact that we're all awesome. But okay, so go ahead, let's go around and so that the audience can get to know each one of you guys.
Okay.
All right. You want me to start just in case people don't know who I am?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm Dr. Emily King. I started All-Star Veterinary Clinic in 2003 and sold it to SVP in 2021. Fall of 2021, still work there, and I consider myself a serial entrepreneur, and hence why we started VetPractice Pro. Okay.
Good.
Kayla Biddles, what do you think?
Well, I'm Kayla Biddles. I'm an RVT. I graduated from Purdue in 2008. Got hired on at All-Star right after I graduated, about 2009. Worked there for, 10 years. As an RVT, hospital, practice, or I don't know.
Yeah,
Sorry,
practice manager, hospital. You were basically director of operations and all things important. I think don't sell yourself short, though, because I think it's important for people to know that, yes, you're an RVT, but you also have a BS in biology. And I think that you were one of the motivating factors behind All-Star growing and changing and becoming what it was. And so I think that's really important for people to know because, RVTs can lead up and they can grow something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, okay, sorry, I just had to add that part.
I'm Richie King, and I was with Emily from day one at All-Star when everything started in 2003. My background is in banking and financial consulting prior to that. And it's been an adventure from day one since then. So.
Oh, my gosh. Everybody's selling themselves short. All right. Richard King has an MBA and a law degree, and he ran the backside of the practice, which allowed me to focus on being just a veterinarian. So one of the things we were really good at, and Kayla, hopefully you would agree with this, is that I think that we all stayed in our lanes pretty good. Yeah. So like the thing I always like to say about Richie is he told me when and when I could not spend money.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, John, what you got?
Hi, folks. I'm John Biddles. I am a registered nurse. I got out of nursing school in 2006. My beautiful wife, Kayla, and I have had the pleasure of walking alongside the Kings in their journey with All-Star Vet Clinic. In the meantime, I've had extensive leadership in the healthcare world, also took a break from nursing and went and led in ministry. I feel like I have vast knowledge in human resources, leadership, employee growth and development, and that's my true passion. I'm super excited to be part of this project.
Woo! Okay, good job, John. That was an excellent introduction. Okay. All right. So now before we get started, this episode is going to be on must-have conversations when hiring. Okay. But before we get started, we need to mention something that we're all very excited about, which is the VetPractice Pro live session.
It's coming.
It's going to happen on December 6th. And there are only 20 seats, right? Am I right about that? 20 seats, 20. We already have some of them gone. So we are just wanting everybody to know about it. What are we talking about, John, in the live session?
We are going to address burnout. We feel like this is something that's relevant to all practices, businesses, any business out there, any leaders out there, how to recognize burnout, not only in themselves, but in their employees so that you can catch it early, get in front of it. And we are telling you that we feel like this content will absolutely change your life moving forward.
Absolutely. And so make sure if you want to participate, I'm telling you, get your name in there. Go to the show notes. There'll be a link there. You can also go to VetPractice Pro's website, and I think you can also access the session there.
And again, there are only 20 spots, so be sure you sign up now. We want this to be a very small cohort so that we can address questions and we can really take our time to be sure that you guys get the growth that you set out for.
VetPractice Pro's website, in case you were wondering, is www.vetpracticepro.com.
Yeah.
We got it.
Okay. Yep. So, yeah, there's that.
And I don't even think you have to put in the www anymore.
I think you can just put in VetPractice Pro. And it's going to pop up. All one word. VetPractice Pro, all one word right there. VetPractice, and then just put Pro.
Pro.
And it's going to take you right there, and you can get tickets there for the live session.
That's
okay. So like I was saying, in this session, we are talking about must-have conversations when hiring. All right? So who wants to open it up?
Between who?
Between the person hiring and the employee candidate.
Candidate, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you when that question or when that topic is kind of just like thrown out there, what are the first things that come to people's heads?
I think an entry-level conversation, as with any leadership conversation, needs to include the why. And I think it's important when you sit down with that applicant, really at the beginning, really trying to figure out what motivated them to apply for your business and why. That's when your ears need to be open and you really need to be listening for any sort of red flags or cautions, but really just why they are sitting in front of you interested in a job in your business should be extremely coveted as somebody that's trying to recruit good talent.
Yeah. And I think it's more than just, we hear a lot, well, I love dogs or I love cats. And so it needs to be, their answer needs to be more than just that. Like, why do they want to come more than just loving animals?
Yeah, because I think people can fake it. I think we used to say like people could fake wanting to be there like 6 months.
Yeah.
And then they're toast after that. They're just calling it in basically. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a really important point.
I think in any kind of hiring decision or process, it's really a two-way street. Even though there's a power dynamic with the employer candidate aspect, I think that you still have to be cognizant and think about, are they a good fit for the organization, and are you doing them a favor by hiring them unnecessarily if they're a bad fit? I've always looked at the hiring process kind of function as you're taking as many proactive steps as you possibly can to minimize the chance that they won't work out. And to the extent you can do that, I think, and then run through as much as you possibly can to get to come to that positive conclusion. I think that's the best thing you can possibly do.
Yeah, I mean, when you were talking there, it reminded me of a saying, which is have an understanding so there's not a misunderstanding.
Right.
And so I think that the thing that I thought of when I heard that this was the topic was, I think so often we don't tell people what to expect.
Sure.
And one of the things that they need to expect is feedback. And so, having the conversation where, hey, listen, I'm going to pull you in the office at some point. I'm going to offer you feedback. I am going to probably surprise you with that from the standpoint of maybe you're not performing as well as you should, or, maybe there's been, I don't know, an event that requires feedback. And I think, so I don't want you to be surprised when we coach you or when we offer feedback, because feedback for us is a way of showing love. And so you really only need to be concerned when we never talk to you. Pretty much, right? My junior high basketball coach would say, listen, you should he coached like Bobby Knight. So he was like throwing chairs and all kinds of stuff. And, we would always be like, oh man, we don't want him to say our name, And he's like, no, you need to be concerned when I stop saying your name, because it means I stop caring about you. And so I think that's a really important thing to keep in the back of your head. And so telling the employee, hey, you're going to receive feedback, don't be surprised, is really important. It makes it so much easier too when you, my pen is falling out of my head, when you pull someone aside and say, we're going to have feedback. It's not a surprise. Mm-hmm. So that's what I thought of.
I think that function takes, if you can find the best fit possible, that minimizes the effort that you have to take down the road to try and correct or any, I don't know how many times at the All-Star we ran into that issue where it was just a bad fit. And slowly that process started to hone itself through, positive action and it became much better over time. But when we first started, it was a bit of a disaster.
Oh yeah.
Because, you just don't know what you're doing.
You don't know what you're doing. Yeah.
And the more you learn and read and seek out mentors to try and, mimic their processes, it makes a big difference. So,
yeah, I think, just being upfront and explaining the why, the mission statement, your core values, being confident in those things and explaining to them upfront so they know what they're expecting. And two, they should probably pick up if they're not going to be a good fit or not based on kind of those expectations you have. So yeah, I think explaining the why right up front.
Yeah, I think
even on the phone interview before they even come in.
Absolutely, because they need to know if, like, for All-Star, one of the core values was being timely. If you show up, I'm going to give you late, I'm going to give you 3 chances. And when on your 3rd chance, you're late, you're out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of times you have to be that specific with what the expectations are, because I think we've seen so many times where people just push the limits. They're trying to make the job work for their lifestyle. They want to mold the job into something that it's not, or the clinic into something it's not, to fit their schedule, their routine, their lifestyle, instead of the other way around.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's where we really struggle sometimes with people.
With giving them the expectations, you also have to hold them accountable. And so, like, if you're saying, like, we're timely is one of our core values, well, they show up late and you let it slide, they're just going to keep doing it. And so, again, that feedback and holding them accountable is super important right off the get-go.
And I sympathize with anybody in that process. I mean, hiring and managing, it is extraordinarily difficult.
I think when you're walking through the process as an interviewer, you have to be a master of mental multitasking. And the fact that you need to be able to carry on a conversation, but you need to be watching the subtle nonverbal cues. You need to be watching the response of the candidate when you're explaining the why. And most importantly, you want to try to lead your candidate down a path to open a door where they can describe to you what they feel your business sets apart from other businesses. If they won't go there with you, take them there. Take them and explain to them why your business, why your veterinary practice is set apart from others, and that's your goal, that we are going to be different than all the others. We are going to break the mold. And in the background, you need to be assessing how are they excited about it, or are they scared about it? And then kind of drive that conversation one way or another. If they're excited about it, figure out why. How can they contribute to those things that set you apart from other clinics? And if they seem scared about it, see if you can bring them along and say, hey, this is really cool. We would love to have you a part, and see if they're interested, and if they're going to be shy and reluctant to jump in because it's different than what they've ever known.
Yeah. I mean, I would say if your gut is telling you not to hire the person, for the love of Pete, don't hire them.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily
question.
You don't have to be, and you know what happens? It's like when you're desperate, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, finally, a technician has applied, and you so badly want that person to work.
If they can fog a mirror, you got a job.
You're like, please answer the questions correctly, please. Yes. And then when they halfway answer it, you're like, well, it was pretty good. It was pretty good, right, Kayla? It was pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you convince yourself that you should hire this person, and instead just don't. Don't. You end up actually sacrificing so much more, by adding someone who's not a good fit, than you do by just waiting for the right candidate.
Well, I think that's too why we implemented our hiring process is long. There's multiple steps of the interview process and multiple people involved. And so, if I was like, oh, I just want to help them, then other people are like, no, like, this person did, like, she said this, she said that, like, not a good fit. And so I think that team helps you, like, okay, yeah, you're right. There was a lot of red flags.
It does minimize your chance of making a mistake. You're right. Of hiring a mistake. Yeah, for sure.
And any red flag.
Any red flag. Doesn't matter what it is.
Doesn't matter what it is. Anything.
You have to look at it as you're not just protecting your business. You're not just protecting your clinic. You're protecting your culture. You're protecting your other employees. You are the gatekeeper to that person's employment, and you are the gatekeeper to that culture of your clinic. And whoever you allow through, it's just like airport security, but a little bit nicer. We'll just say a little bit nicer. Laptops out of the bag. But at the same time, you are allowing what comes through that, and you are the gatekeeper. So it's very, very important that you don't go through interviews casually, that you really, really decide, looking at their resume, looking at their backgrounds, and have a very focused conversation plan before you ever get into it. Because your lack of preparation could end up being a sore that you have to deal with for quite a while. And regardless of whether the employees are good or bad, a termination in a small business, it does rock the cart. Regardless of whether it's a good employee or a bad employee, they've made allies by that point. And you are gonna rock the boat if you have to do a termination. And we will talk about in some of our modules and things like that, the cost of hiring a bad employee is phenomenally large. The cost of bringing on somebody, hiring them, terminating them, not just financial costs, but culture cost as well. So it's super important that you're prepared going into the conversation.
So we've kind of been talking from the employer side of things. What do you think are some must-have conversations for the employee to have with the future employer? Do you guys have any ideas?
I listened to a podcast after years, and this guy is in a different space now, but he used to be in telecom sales, and he was, according to him, extraordinarily good. And he has told a story a few times about he was good enough and well known enough within the industry. When he would interview for a position, he was interviewing them as much as they were interviewing him, because he knew that he could perform, and he was a top 1%er. So I think if you look at it from that perspective, they should be interviewing the organization as much as you're interviewing them. And I think that I mentioned earlier about the power dynamic between the employer and candidate, but I think that you should be empathetic and recognize that they should be asking questions as well. Is this a good fit for you?
Yeah, I think one mistake employers will make is in the interview process they do all the talking.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And it's impossible to get to know the candidate when you're the one doing all the talking.
Yeah.
As a candidate, I wouldn't say to start with this, but at some point it would be a very, very good idea to ask the employer how often and how you will be evaluated. Your performance will be evaluated.
I think that's a great point in veterinary medicine.
If you have a structured way that you do continuous loop feedback, or is it just a once a year, they dump it in your lap? As an employee going to a business, I want to hear continuous feedback loop. I don't want a surprise once a year. And starting that conversation with how often and how will my performance be evaluated can lead you down the path of, tell me what the person in your practice that got the highest rating, what did that performance look like? What does good performance look like to you? So you have a clear expectation of what is expected of you to be successful before you even get the job offer.
Oh,
so
I like that
I really
a lot.
do
That's
think
a great
that's
point.
a good way to go, is to really seek evaluation.
Yeah. I think with that too is how can they grow? Like, what are the potential growth opportunities for them too? Great. Like, are they just coming in and staying here, or does the clinic have growth opportunities for them?
Yeah, those are two really good points.
And this one is kind of cliche, but literally, what does a day look like? What does a day in my role actually look like? Especially if you're a smaller clinic and you don't have a shadow process set up, we'd love to help you with that. But if they're not shadowing before the job, if you're just going by raw interview, which is risky business, but really take the time and explain, like, hey, listen, some days you can come in and it's easy. Some days it's complete chaos. Be honest with them. Tell them what their day looks like. Tell them what some of the struggles are. It is on you as an interviewer to really paint a clean picture of not only your practice's strength, but also your weaknesses, so that they can be prepared and also be thinking about a way that they can help contribute to fixing those.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's see here. We're on to, anybody have anything else to add to those
talk about the red flags
topics? That's coming up next,
okay.
Caleb Biddles. Good job. Okay.
Captain Segue.
Nice segue. Okay, so we are going to do a roundtable replay. So we have a question and answer, basically, where we're going to respond to a listener question. Okay, I know you guys all want to know what the question is.
Dying to hear it.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to find it really fast here because Harrison texted it to me before the podcast. All right. Here is the question from one of the listeners. What are some red flags you noticed during interviews? From @Alexandra_C.
What's up, Alexandra _C?
Yes.
We're glad that you're a part. Glad that you asked the question.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Personal appearance
is red flag.
Yeah, if they don't take pride in their personal appearance, they will not take pride in their work product.
Blue hair. I'm kidding. Good employees can have.
Well, it's key though, right? And I think that this is so overlooked, and it depends on where you're at. It's a community standard kind of thing, but people, rightly or wrongly, fairly or unfairly, you are judged by your appearance from a first impression standpoint, and your credibility can be
affected.
It can be affected by that.
Don't show up in your pajamas.
Right. Yeah. It could be. So, I mean, and when you walk into, if you are a clinic that is a premium clinic and you walk in and don't fit the value add that clinic offers, immediately the credibility goes down and the value add goes down.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, right? Here's what people are going to say. Well, I should be able to dress and wear what I want when I, and like, that's who I am as a person. Like, that's me expressing myself. Right.
But while you're on our clock, you represent me and my business.
Right.
And the image that we want to put
And I think
forward.
that's a hard conversation to have, especially these days. But I think with Richie saying, like, based on your clinic and your demographics, like, you have to have a certain standard and you have to live by that.
This is where some of the expertise that I have in the ministry sector happens. When you work for ministry, you represent that church, and you are supposed to live in a biblical pattern, and you are supposed to do everything that you can to live a very clean, healthy life. And when you hire these employees, there are religious exemptions for discrimination on hiring, things like that because of it. But it was always told to our staff that you're a representation of the kingdom and of our church, and that's how you put yourself out there, how you look, the words that you say, the way that you act. And I don't know that that's any different on a veterinary practice scale. If you really have a vision and a target for the customer experience, what you want them to see and feel when they walk in, you're not exempt to that. You need to really consider those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you just don't, I mean, this sounds harsh, but if you want to express yourself, be a certain way personally, it's like, great, this isn't the right place for you.
Well, I think in veterinary medicine, the whole objective is follow through. So when you, as a veterinarian, when you're going into work every day, you are working through a client who owns a pet. Right. You have to reach them. You have to get them to understand what's happening. And then you have to get them to follow through on your recommendations so the patient can receive the care it needs. There are already so many hurdles that you have to cross. Why do you want to make that one of them? Meaning appearance, or wearing different color scrubs and doing this and doing that. I think that's a real pain point for a lot of practices, because they do want to offer the ability of staff to be unique.
Yeah.
And so then I feel like there's always this tug of war going on.
It's okay to express yourself, but not to the point it becomes a distraction from the client's experience.
Yeah. You don't want to distract them for the purpose that they're there.
Yeah.
When they can't focus on the medicine stuff and what they can do for their pet, then
it's a lost cause.
I just think that there's a certain level of professionalism. Again, it depends on the organization. It's not necessarily vet specific. It could be anything, but people do judge you based upon the way you present yourself. And I just think, my experience with higher level professionals, accountants, lawyers, things like that. I mean, there's a certain expectation that if you're going to charge $1,000 an hour, that this is what, you will look. I mean, that value adds there if you present yourself appropriately.
Yeah. Okay, what are other red flags?
Yeah, I think too that they're constantly harping about pay and flexibility.
Flexibility, yeah.
Like, I think those are the right on top of. They're not going to show up on time. They're always going to want to leave. They're always going to want a day off. They're always going to want to, I think it's. Yeah.
I'm going to let an inside joke out. I only know this about All Star because I was married to one of the hiring managers. However, if their mother calls to schedule the interview or ask about their status, or if you have a job for their child, start throwing the red flags now. If we have any, we need a bucket of red flags. Just start throwing them in the air. If the candidate's mother calls to schedule their interview or see what they need to wear, that's a big one.
That is definitely a red flag.
I was actually in McDonald's one day. It's a true story.
That's a red flag too.
This guy walks in. With his mom, and his mom asked for an application. This was not a young guy. I was like, you poor dude.
Yeah, phone calls I got, they're like 17, 18-year-old.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, well, I'd be happy to discuss this with your child or your teenager at this point.
And it's a good intentions. I get it, but it's kind of like, okay, listen, I mean.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then if the parent shows up to the interview, that was the red flag.
That happened. That happened. Absolutely.
With an interview.
Yeah. I've seen several red flags as far as why did you apply? Oh, I applied a whole bunch of places. Yeah. I'm just looking to see who will call. You just want a job. You don't want a career. You don't want to grow with us. That's what that tells me. I say that to say that for both hiring managers and candidates. Please don't do that. Also, if you're really trying to drive the conversation towards pay, compensation, benefits, that's where you're at. When it's really the candidate is very focused on what you're going to do for them rather than what they can do to help you. That needs to be a red flag as a hiring manager or somebody doing the hiring for your practice.
I think when they verbally trash the previous place they worked.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah.
I mean, John's point earlier about you just want a job. There are jobs out there for people like that are high turnover, low skill set. You just show up, fog a mirror. I mean, there are jobs like that. That's just this isn't it, and that's okay to say that. I think it's appropriate. I mean, not even tell them.
Well, I think that all goes to the expectation. You hire that person, you're going to be firing that person.
Right.
So
another thing you need to ask in these interviews is, can they cook? Because every practice is having that pitch in.
That's right.
And you can't be bringing no store-bought cookies. Don't be bringing no store-bought salsa and hummus. No, you better be able to cook. I better see a crock pot.
Wait, we've had potlucks at the clinic that I wish sometimes people would have brought store-bought stuff. I don't know what that is.
That's because you missed that in the hiring process.
Oh, that's right. Exactly. Oh, my gosh. That's too funny. Anyway. Any others you guys could think of off the top of your head?
I don't think so. I'm sure there's a million more.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are the ones that jump into my head anyway.
I think no preparation is my last one. I like people that.
Oh, good point.
As somebody interviewing a candidate, I do like to spend. You talked about people talking too much. I do like to tell them about the history of, whatever business I'm hiring for, what our expectations are, what we thrive in, our strengths, our weaknesses. That creates a lot of dialogue. But I do like to turn it over to, okay, what are your questions? And if somebody sits down at an interview and they have 0 questions prepared, for me, that's a red flag. You've sat there and you've thought about this interview. You should have done some research online. What do you think about this? Especially in the veterinary world where you have things like euthanasia and very sensitive type of topics to be discussed, like, okay, where do you draw the lines? How do you practice this? How do you do this? They should have some things prepared, and if they come completely unprepared, I'm not prepared to hire.
I think too, people hire who they like, and I think that to the extent that the candidate can establish rapport and do research, and I had a buddy in college once, and the job that he got out of college, he did research and found out that hiring the guy he's going to be talking to went to Arizona State or something. So the first thing when he met the guy was, hey, how about, so-and-so this past week? It was a great game, huh? That kind of back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't have that. I mean, it's a very just kind of, what do you want to know? This kind of thing.
I think too, just how they talk to you.
Right.
Like how they talk to you is going to be how they talk to a client.
And that's big. That's big.
And so even on the phone interview, if they're not excited and just, ball humbug on the phone, that's how they're going to talk to a client. So again, if the culture you want to create is one of, growth and great customer service, really how they talk to you in the interview is
and that
really
goes to the
good
point.
Indicator.
If you can't sell yourself, good luck. You're not going to be very good at selling the culture. I think to your point, the phone interviews are so important because if that verbal rapport isn't established, it's going to be really hard to get people to do that in a room with somebody.
There's tons of books out there on leadership and hiring, and a lot of them include some number of C's, character, competency, chemistry. We've heard all of these before. The one that really resonates with me, and the one that you have to be this mental multitasker when you're talking to this person, is you really need to not get sold on competency. Competency can be trained. You can train somebody how to do a job.
We say that all the time.
It's very easy to sell out in an interview over somebody's competency because they know how to do the job, but you're not paying enough attention to their character.
Yeah.
Character cannot be trained. Competency can, and I can't say that enough. I'm going to say it one more time. Character cannot be trained. Competency can. You can train a good person to do a job. You can't train somebody that's good at a job to be a good person.
Amen.
And you need to surround yourself by good people.
Way too many times.
And I think that's when people make a mistake is because they're desperate to have somebody.
Yep.
And they see that they're very good at their job. And
I don't have to train them. I'm going to save so much time on training them. I can get them right in. They can take off. And it's a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. And it's not going to help.
Yeah, it's not going to help.
It's not going to help. You're going to end up having to either A, throw more people at it, or you're going to have a hard conversation. It's very difficult to terminate employees that are very competent. To terminate somebody over character is a lot harder than to terminate somebody over competency, because people see an employee that can do a job and then they wonder why
did you fire them
on for him.
Yes.
And then you almost feel like when that person leaves that their personality was attacked.
Yes.
And their character was attacked, and they will badmouth you. They will run you down because they feel like you attacked them as a person, not on their skill set.
Yes.
So you have to use caution in hiring for competency without character, a balance of character.
Yeah.
That is a really great way to describe that.
One of the things that I always come back to is viewing problems as opportunities. Mm-hmm. And one of the benefits, and we'll talk about this in a bit, corporate versus privately owned practices. Privately owned practices aren't necessarily shackled by some of the corporate nuances and requirements in the hiring, coaching, termination, whatever process, HR wise. So I think that it presents an amazing opportunity to hone that and dial it in for the personality of your particular clinic, and really make it work for you, and not necessarily have to. Not to say you don't follow those corporate formalities in HR, but you're not beholden necessarily to a larger corporate parent, so to speak, in that process. So I think that's an amazing opportunity to be able to go in and say, just like we had at All Star, it's not. I mean, our process is personalized. It is what it is. It's here to maximize the potential of each candidate and employee, and it worked great. So.
I'd say, and I don't know if this is in the interview process, but as everybody was talking, what came to mind is don't explain away social media posts of the candidate.
I tell you, that is one thing.
Yeah.
And that's a red flag. That's a huge red flag.
Yeah. Are we allowed to say that?
I don't know.
Well, no, it's.
I don't know. Are we allowed to look at social media posts?
I don't know. Are you allowed to call previous employers to get a reference check? I mean, are you?
Yes.
That's the thing. It's like past is prologue. It always is. It always will be. So if somebody does something, now they could change it. I mean, whatever. But this notion that you could put every event of your life, good, bad, or otherwise, out there for public consumption could be a problem depending on where you want to go professionally.
Why are you laughing? You're giving me the dirty eye.
No, I think it's a very much proceed very highly with caution on that. I wouldn't bring it up, but I think we'd be naive to say that people are not looking at social media pages before hiring somebody. Let's just be honest, and I'm just going to throw it out there. A job interview is really the candidates of cannabis. Yeah, that's what it is.
Speaking of social Colorado.
Media posts. The candidate's opportunity to show how well they can BS. I mean, it really is. I mean, you have a resume that is inflated on what they did. Let's be honest. Everybody does. They put their best foot forward on their resume. You're going to see their best foot forward on the interview. They're going to have, let's just be real. We're not asking interview questions that other people never have before.
Right.
And it's really just that best answer that they can provide. Now, if we have a lens to look into their personal life, I don't know. Legality, schmegalities, like, hey, listen, I think that it's a common practice.
I don't think that it's anything that you talk to the candidate about. I think it's an initial step when the candidate applies. So, I think it's the candidate applies. It's you look at it and you're like, okay, there's nothing here that screams this could be really bad. Yeah. And so then you go to the next step with the interview process.
I mean, we say professional life, but I mean, it's no different if they put certain organizations, let's say they belong to certain organizations on their resume that are not a fit for your organization.
Right.
I mean, it's no different. It's just you're looking for that fit. I mean, and look, we all make mistakes. I get that. I mean, no one's perfect, but I think that's what to your point earlier about character, that's what you're going for.
Right.
You're saying, is this, how can we minimize the chance this is not going to work out both ways? Yeah. And that's really what you're looking at.
Yeah. And I think that too helps with our long interview process that we talk about in one of our modules. But because again, like John was saying, they're going to put on their fake happy face for their interview. But the more times they come into the clinic, like that barrier comes down and their true self starts to come out. And so by the time you're done with the interview process, you kind of would see all these red flags.
I think definitely by the time the very last thing, meeting with the significant other, like over a meal, that is some huge information.
We got some stories about that.
Some huge information because the significant other shares things that the candidate would never share. And so I think that's a huge opportunity to learn even more about the person.
In retrospect and our experiences, and we didn't have that many, or I didn't have that many, I was absolutely shocked at how that played out.
Yeah.
And
it was fascinating.
Just like, wow, this is okay, great. I mean,
we did that at the church as well, and it was really telling. You could tell how that relationship went. We thought that ministry is a partnership. If you're in marriage, the spouse needs to be involved too. And there were some of those meals that revealed a whole lot about the spouse and their buy-in, and a lot of information that wasn't really explained at the beginning. So, and plus, hey, listen, we got to share a meal over it at least. You don't get to, nobody's losing here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, it's been something.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so in closing, what do you guys think are some actionable items people can take away from the hiring conversations? Anything you want people to, just basically make note of, or
learn, develop a process, follow it, tweak it as needed, and proceed. That's what I think.
Well, I think stressing to follow it. I think there was some candidates that were like, oh, we loved her. We just need to hire her right now. And we skipped all the steps and it was backfired. And so no matter how much you think you love the person, go through the whole interview process and don't skip steps.
And where did we...
Be consistent.
Wasn't it Dave Ramsey's, the EntreLeadership we used to kind of develop that? Okay.
Yes.
I think you need to go into it almost with an interview core values of your interview process. What are the few things that you really want to take away, and what questions do you want answered in your time with that person? And I think one of those has to be, is this for the young people out there, does this person vibe with me? They on my vibe.
Right.
Are they ride or die? They're going to sell out. Right. They're going to be here like 10, 12 years because they looked at their resume and they have great job history and they're loyal. And, is that what you're looking for? Are you looking somebody that can pick up your beliefs and your core values and really that is a go-getter? Or, you might find yourself in a position where you're looking for just to get this position filled. We may do something with it later. You know that this is a stepping stone job for this person to go on to something different. But hey, if their needs meet yours and your needs meet theirs, maybe it's still a good fit. But you really need to have a core idea of what questions you're trying to answer in that time. Otherwise, it's a very abstract conversation that you might go, hey, I don't know,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That's really great information. I think we shared a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, that's fun.
I mean, things that made us successful for sure.
Yeah.
We hope it's a help.
We can, I often say, you learn more by your mistakes than by your successes sometimes. And that was kind of what drove, where we are now. We failed a lot, and I think the key point is that that's okay as long as you're willing to change.
Right.
I absolutely love fixing my life off of other people's mistakes and their examples than my own. I'd rather just let somebody else mess up first and tell me what not to do. And hey, that's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like skip a step, learn from our
learn from my mistakes. That way you don't have to make your own.
So, hey, everybody, all the listeners out there, make sure you check out all the related VetPractice Pro courses. There's downloadable resources. We're going to be doing some masterminds. And of course, then this live session.
December 6th, burnout.
And don't forget, check it out. There's a link in the show notes. Go to the website. You can sign up there, get tickets there. Like we said, there's only 20, but we kept it small because we really wanted to be able to have this back and forth. Kayla's going to be running the commentary section. John and I are going to be doing some live stuff.
Yep.
Then we're going to do question and answer. We're very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, all right. And listen, this will change your life. Burnout, understanding it and managing it, it's going to change your life.
A lot of people don't figure it out until it's too late. We're here to try to help get you in front of that wave.
Well, I think too is, I don't know the stats anymore, but isn't RVTs and DVMs one of the highest burnout?
Yeah.
I know nursing's
rates
up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So
it just doesn't have to be.
No.
I'm convinced the more that we've been talking about these concepts, that the more people can use strategic, action items to be able to prevent this from happening. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, check it out. All right, that's it for today's episode of the VetPractice Pro Playbook. We hope you got a few plays to bring back to your own clinic. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with your team, leave us a review, and check out vetpracticepro.com for tools and courses that can take your clinic to the next level. We'll see you next week.
God bless.
Bye.
See ya.